Hello, this is Dr. Jackalyn, and it's with DTP-Leadership Group. I'm very excited about this podcast this evening because the title of it will give you an indication of something. Rising for Reproductive Freedom, my front row seat experience at Kamala Harris's historic Houston rally. I will tell you that when we first heard about the possibility of going to hear her on Thursday of October 24th, I thought, I am not missing this event. I am hearing Kamala Harris. Besides that, I was so excited, and my spouse and I determined we were going to make arrangements no matter what it was. And we did. And we finally, it took us almost an hour to get through all the masses of crowded streets and finally the parking areas so that we could find a place to park. Now, as we approached the stadium, there was this huge number of parking lots, and every one of them had lines in, and there were tons of people there. And I just thought, oh my God, we haven't come early enough. I mean, it was something. But as we weaved through the parking lot in the lines, then we moved forward. We did realize that coming at 2:30 wasn't the same as coming at 7:30 because we talked to somebody who had done that. 7:30 a.m. And we saw, that there were loads of people ahead of us. But then we started talking to some of the individuals in the line, and I realized 1 million tickets were sent out, and there, of course, was limited seating in the stadium. Now, I'm not sure all those million people came to sit in the hot sun or walk in the hot sun. There was a major surprise when we looked at the line. Two of our very close friends that we hadn't seen in ages were standing in line, and they insisted that we come with them. So we started meeting and talking with people in the front line, and we had a good time and talking about how ridiculous it was to stand in this hot sun, and yet we were going to do it anyway. And then we found out from these individuals that were in front of us that a friend of theirs had told them that it was a much shorter line on the other side of this building in the parking lots we were in. Well, one of our friends we had met had had knee surgery, and she had her cane, and she was having difficulty anyway. And so we said, let's try the other side. And as we walked on the other side of the building, all of a sudden we saw that there was a sign, an ADA sign. And she went up to it, and the police officer said immediately to her, you can come in this entrance and bring your friends with you. And so we got in. It was just amazing. We got in by 5:30, and we were so grateful to have a seat. Then the fun really began. There was a lot of fun and a lot of serious things that happened in that rally. But I grew up in the 60s, so I've been in plenty of rock concerts, and I certainly did marches in the 60s. And so it was a fun experience, and the music was loud. It was great fun to participate with the crowds, and they had a DJ that had come in that was outstanding. So throughout the stadium were signs saying, protect our reproductive rights. We trust women. Freedom now. And the chants were, we are not going back. My understanding is that was the largest rally she has had, with 30,000 people yelling, shouting, and supporting her. Having the experience to hear Kamala Harris was amazing to me, and then to also hear the people that she had chosen to come on the stage. Some of the stories were heartbreaking. One of the women from San Antonio, I will never forget, she did a video, and it was a really horrific experience she'd had, not trying to get medical care in Texas. And she ended up with a scar from her navel to her chest due to the surgery she'd had that saved her life. She talked about the impact of living in a state like Texas that has one of the strictest abortion bans, period. In fact, sadly enough, Texas's ban was utilized by other states to form their really heartbreaking bills, as it's called. And it means that that you can't get an abortion after 6 weeks. Here's some facts about abortion laws, like in Texas, and their impact. 1 out of 3 American women live in a state where abortion is not an option. In Texas, for example, healthcare providers face jail if they perform abortions, and there are cash incentive bounties. Really, there are cash incentive bounties for Texans who report those who pursue the procedure or help someone to obtain an abortion. So there's an excellent article on this in Time magazine, and it's written by Philip Elliott, and it was written on October 25th. So I think you may want to look at it. It gives some great detail. But this rally showed what ordinary people are having to deal with due to Trump's Supreme Court eliminating Roe versus Wade. A striking moment for me, since I've worked with a lot of medical personnel because of the work I do, was there were 3 dozen OB/GYN doctors in their white coats that took the stage. And when Dr. R. Todd Ivy spoke for the group of doctors, he lives in Houston, he strongly denounced the Texas law for threatening physicians with prison time if they performed abortions. He described his experience as a doctor, and he said, "I feel anguish when I cannot meet the needs of my patients." I heard him say this: "These laws are designed to handcuff me, literally," he said. "I was shocked when Roe was overturned, but I've been more shocked to hear Donald Trump brag about it. Let me be clear about one thing. There is no place for Donald Trump in my examining room. There is no place for Donald Trump in my examining room." The crowd shouted and stomped their feet to make noise to support his statements. I thought it was very moving to see 3 dozen doctors on that stage. Now, I've heard Amanda and Josh, and they speak exceptionally well. And I've heard them in other places, but to hear their story in a crowded stadium with people that know how outrageous it was, what they had to go through, it was extremely meaningful. Amanda was pregnant with a girl that they had long wanted. Complications developed, and Amanda described how she had to wait until she was in jeopardy of losing her life before she fell under the exception allowing her to have an abortion. So her life was threatened before she could have an abortion. She said, "I was finally close enough to death to deserve treatment in Texas. It was in that dark and lonely hospital room that I realized I was actually lucky I lived. There are others that have not lived." Colin Allred is an outstanding politician here in our state, and he was the next one to speak. He's running for the Senate against Ted Cruz and has an excellent chance to beat Ted Cruz. I've even heard Republicans say, "I'm so sick and tired of Cruz," and they will vote for Allred. I recorded him, so here are some of his comments. He praised Kamala Harris for coming to Texas. He emphasized that we all must get out for the vote, since we needed Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States. Allred was right on with his comments about the fact that Cruz tried to overturn the 2020 election, fled to Mexico during the ice storm we had in Texas, and supported the Texas law that is as severe as restrictive as any about restricting and obtaining in order to obtain an abortion. Allred also emphasized that Texas would win and all the nation would win when Kamala Harris is president. Now in Texas, Willie Nelson, of course, is an icon. He played 2 songs and he billed himself simply that night as a Texas voter. Yeah, a lot of people were waiting, including myself. And next was Beyoncé, who started in Houston with her career, Destiny's Child. How exciting it was to hear her and Beyoncé Knowles Carter and her former Destiny's Child headliner, Kelly Rowland. They introduced Vice President Kamala Harris. As far as I'm concerned, Rowland needs to go into politics. Her speech was enthusiastic, intense, and right on target about her commitment to Kamala Harris and the significant need of our country to have her as president. Of course, it was the Queen Bee who best understood her assignment. I consider her to be one of the most popular musicians on the planet, and she is using her political chops by endorsing Harris. Beyonce's been a supporter of Democrats. However, her brand goes far beyond traditional groups, and so this is very helpful to Harris. And the audience went wild when she arrived on the stage. At the end, the crowd was extremely appreciative of her comments. Here is what I recorded that she said. So these are from my recordings and attempting to type up all of what she had to offer us. She began her speech with, "We are so happy to be standing on this stage as proud country Texas women to support Kamala Harris." Her mother, Tina Knowles, had spoken before her to make the case for Kamala Harris for president. Beyoncé went on to say that Kamala Harris is what this country needs right now. It's impossible not to feel the energy in this room, the community and the humanity that's in this crowd. We are at the precipice of an incredible shift, the brink of history. Beyoncé told us in that packed Shell Energy Stadium as she introduced Kamala Harris. She said, "I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I am here as a mother who cares deeply about the world my children and all of your children grow up in." And she said, "A world where we have freedom to control our bodies is essential. A world where we're not divided. Our past or our present or our future have merged with, meeting us here tonight. Imagine what it would be like to have no glass ceilings or limitations." She said, "Imagine what our grandmothers feel that now that they can see this historic day, even though they may not be physically with us. Imagine their sacrifice that they made to see the strength of a woman like Kamala Harris. Really imagining what leadership is for all the men and women in this room tonight and watching all over the country. Our voices and our hope is one of the most valuable tools we have. We need you," is what she said. And then it was very clear that Kamala Harris had been showing us many things by the signs and the people that presented. The abortion ban in Texas could become the national standard, which it did, and in Donald Trump's second term in the White House, as she said. She said, realize the abortion ban in Texas could become the national standard if Trump is given a second term. And it doesn't matter that he now has a PAC that is supporting, and this is my comments, it really doesn't matter that he has a PAC that is supporting him at this late date by putting out ads that say he's against a national ban. I think and you know Trump cannot be trusted. He would say anything to be elected. Kamala Harris starts and says more things. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my Houston family. I am so proud to be here. For all of you that have spoken tonight, that have been affected by these Trump abortion bans, I thank you for sharing your stories and for your courage. It is an honor to be here, and all of you that have taken the time out of your busy lives to be here this evening so we can be here as people. We love our country, can stand for every woman to make a decision about their bodies. And then, of course, there's applause after each one of these statements that she makes. She also says, I want to thank the members of Congress and also Colin Allred. I'm counting on you. She looks at Colin Allred and says, I'm counting on you to be as United States senators so we can get a lot done. Thank you to the community officials and community leaders. Thank you all. Then she had some Trump supporters that somehow got in, and they were booing her, and she said, see you later. Then she said, we have work to do, and I love your enthusiasm. However, let's talk about the work we have to do. We have 11 days to see this through, and we will win. It is time for every woman to make the decision about her own body. We are here tonight to fight for our future and not allow someone to take us back. We are not going back. And the chants lasted for a long time about we are not going back. She then says, freedom is not to be given. It is not to be bestowed. It is ours by right, and we prepared to fight for it because we understand the stakes. In Texas, abortion is banned from conception. More boos from the Trump group, she says. You can go join the small rally down the street. She looked at the crowd and says, we can show them the way. We know what is at stake, and we will not be silent. Doctors and nurses could go to prison for life to provide reproductive care. Life in prison for healthcare providers, and they think it's right and in the best interest for women. The beauty of our campaign is we are fighting for democracy. We know in Texas that there is a cash bounty for turning in a friend or family member who helps a friend to get the kind of care they need. In some counties in Texas, they've passed travel bans to prevent women from going to other states to receive care. It's disparaging to live in Texas based on some things that are happening right now. And she goes on, we know how to got here. When Trump was elected, he selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court that would undo the protections of Roe versus Wade. He selected 3 that helped to undo Roe versus Wade. And they did it, she said. And now there are 26 states that have abortion bans. And she again repeats the statements that I have made earlier. 1 out of 3 women live in a state with Trump's abortion bans. This includes Texas and every state in the South except Virginia. And many of these bans are denying care to a woman unless she is at death's door. A woman needs to talk to her doctor, her rabbi, her priest, her minister, not the government or state legislature. Texas, you are on ground zero in the fight for reproductive freedom. She then goes into a lot of detail about the impact on women who live in states where an abortion is banned. She states, but the Attorney General of Texas threatened Jackalyn's doctor if they terminated her pregnancy. They would be criminally prosecuted, so she had to flee the state to get the help she needed. In Louisiana, another woman went to 2 different hospitals. However, doctors would not treat her due to Trump's abortion ban. They would face 15 years in prison. Jackalyn had to go through a miscarriage for a month and tried not to show the pain she was in to her 4-year-old daughter. We know that women have died because of Trump's abortion bans. We know about Amber Nicole Thurman. She said, I told her mother I would repeat her name several times. We need to remember Amanda Nicole Thurman. She died of a condition that could be treated, and she died of a Trump abortion ban. We need to make sure that we know that Amber was a daughter, a mother, a sister, and that she was loved, and she should be alive today. The stories we've heard about the effect of Trump's abortion bans, and there are many stories we have not heard. There are untold numbers of women and people that love them silently, and they are now suffering. Women made to feel as though they did something wrong, as though they are criminals or alone. And to those women, I say, I see you, and we are here for you. She then says, Texas, what is happening across this state in our country is a healthcare crisis. Donald Trump is the architect of it, and he brags about overturning Roe versus Wade. In his own words, she says, I did it, and I'm proud to have done it. I did it, he says, and I'm proud to have done it. That is what he said, and one has to ask. She says, proud that women are dying, proud that doctors and nurses be thrown into prison for administering life-changing caring care, proud that young women today have fewer rights than their grandmothers and mothers. How dare he? Donald Trump even said everyone wants Roe versus Wade to be overturned, and that got a lot of boos. Her next example is a woman in Ohio was arrested for having a miscarriage, and so was a woman in North Carolina. Hadley was raped by her stepfather when she was 12 years old. She didn't want this. Ryan Hamilton, who was here tonight, went through his wife being sent home after a miscarriage. He found her bleeding and unconscious. He dressed her and put her in a car and their 9-month-old child, where the doctor told him at another emergency room that she could have died if she had not received treatment. He didn't want this, she says. Let's be clear, men across America do not want to see their daughters, wives, and sisters be at risk. I see these men here, and I thank you. Americans don't want this. Her next comment is, now the Attorney General of Texas is suing the United States government so that Texas prosecutors can get justice by getting their hands on private medical records when they leave the state to get care. Now, I ask everyone to see the irony. On one hand, Donald Trump won't let anyone see his medical records. She said, I gave them mine. They want to get their hands on your medical records. Simply put, they're out of their minds. With 4 years as president, Donald Trump was able to erase years of hard-earned progress, and now he wants to go even further. He will force all 50 states to track and report on women's abortions. He will go after IVF and many other things, including the abortion pill. It is right there in his Project 2025. Google it, she said. If Donald Trump wins again, he will ban abortion nationwide. Even though we are protected tonight, I am saying to the people watching from another state who think you're protected from Donald Trump's abortion bans, no one is protected if Trump has a national abortion ban, since abortion will be outlawed in every state, every single state. Understand that. He can do it with or without the act of Congress. Elections do matter. If Donald Trump is elected again, he will get to select at least one Supreme Court justice. Remember who we, the Democrats, appointed Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I apologize for mispronouncing her first name. Ketanji Brown Jackson. I think she's a phenomenal woman, and I am amazed at the way she takes stands. The crowd roared. But if you were reelected, he could possibly appoint one or two members to the United States Supreme Court, at which point Donald Trump will have packed the court with 5 out of 9 of that court. Think about that. Who will sit with lifetime appointments and will be shaping the lives of you and your generations to come? That is among the many critical contracts in this election, she said. Donald Trump does not trust women, but I do, and we trust women. If Colin Allred is in the United States Senate, we can get a law that protects women's reproductive freedoms, and I will proudly sign it. She said, let us remember the momentum is on our side. Is it worth it to make a difference? Yes, it is. Every time that reproductive freedom has been on the ballot, the people of America have voted for freedom. Every time it's been on the ballot, she repeats herself. They have voted by overwhelming margins from so-called red to blue states, providing this is not a partisan issue. From all backgrounds and beliefs, know that women know how to build a family is the most consequential decision that anyone can make. We are fighting for an American. No matter who you are or where you are, you can make your decision. You can make your decision. And remember, it's only 11 days till the election. Early voting has already begun. Now it is time to start making your plans to vote and get all the information you need. And it is only it is not only the presidency on the ballot, but all the people that are running for office, like Colin Allred. She said, in the midst of this movement we are in, everyone here is a leader in that movement. We do this for all those that came before us, that sacrificed for freedom and found joy in the fight. They found strength and hope fighting for our ideals. That is what we are doing. We know we may endure the night. And then she says, now the opponent has said that he does not support abortion or even rape and incest, which he has repeated a number of times. So let's remember, Texas, your vote is your voice, and your voice is your power. Today I ask you, are you ready to make your voice heard? Do you believe in reproductive freedom? Are we ready to fight for freedom, which is the promise of America? And when we fight, We will win. And the crowd, of course, went massively loud and very much in support of her as she left the stage. I want to end it this way. I've had a lot of great experiences in all the years I've been here on this earth. I met Gloria Steinem and Bella Abzug many, many years ago in the 70s. But I'll tell you, meeting Kamala Harris is something. This rally wasn't just a gathering, it was a movement, a powerful surge for freedom and justice that left no room for us to be complacent. I left the Shell Energy Stadium more determined than ever to support Kamala Harris in her fight for reproductive rights and for our democracy. The energy was palpable. It's really palpable, The voices were united, and the message was clear. We will not go back. It is up to each of us to carry this momentum forward that I experienced that night. And that's the reason I made an effort to really detail what was said and to have recorded things so I can do that. Because we need to move this movement forward, to vote, to engage, and to ensure the freedom remains a promise fulfilled for all Americans. Thank you for listening to my podcast.